Welcome back to another episode of Instigating. I can barely hide my smile, guys. We're brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. Listen, just let me get through the start.
There's nothing to smile about.
Let me get through the start, Mr.
Right,
Clark.
Fine.
We're brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture. We're brought to you by our friends at Larry Hudson Chevrolet Buick GMC and the Listowel Squash Courts. Now, Ryan Drury here alongside Christopher Clark. And of course, we're very pleased to be joined by our good friend, the host of Homestand Leafs, which all you Leaf fans should listen to, Albert Vartanian. Albert, how are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. Well, why are you so happy today, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm not happy. I'm laughing because I can't. You know how people say if I didn't laugh, I'd cry?
Right.
Now, I'm not going to cry either, but if I didn't laugh, I wouldn't quite know how to react to this because I'm all dressed in black again. Clarkey's in black. And that's because once again, for the 8th straight year and for the 4th straight year on this show, we are doing a funeral procession for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, so Albert, it's you guys. Hey, you guys are the bad luck charm for the Leafs. You start the podcast and they can't get past the second and third round.
Exactly. It must be something to do with us. I don't know what it is. And at this point, I'm willing to concede that maybe that's what it is, Albert, because I'm running out of answers here, brother. In your estimation, I listened to you and Justin Pooney again, Homestand Leafs. You guys got to subscribe to that. You can find it everywhere. I was listening to your breakdowns of it. What the hell went wrong this time? Like, what's the excuse now?
Man, where do we start? I mean, do you start with the power play that goes 1 for 21 in the playoffs? Sure. After a point in the season, you go back to February, these guys were hitting at a 50% clip, and all of a sudden, the postseason comes around, and it's kind of the same old story. The Stars can't score. And I know everybody wants to point the fingers at the coach, and they want to point the fingers at, goaltending, Samsonov letting in some soft goals, the Frederick one, the Lindholm one. Injuries, illnesses, but the one constant has been the lack of goal scoring for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the postseason. It's you can't even make it up. With that amount of money invested into 4 forwards, one of them being the best goal scorer in the NHL, scoring 69 goals, another one who just hit 100 points for the first time in his career. Then you have Mitch Marner, who has never hit 100 points, but he's damn near close every single season. They get to the playoffs, they can't score goals. And it's been a trend throughout the entire Sheldon Keefe era. And I think that's one of the main reasons why he got the axe today.
Yeah, and we're recording this, of course, on Thursday, May 9th, before it was supposed to be today, but now it's the day before the adjusted front office press conference where Keith Pelly, the new president of MLSE, is going to trot out Brendan Shanahan. Sound at least my take by his attendance is that he's not getting canned, which people are upset about. And Clarkey, on that note, how are you feeling about that? 11 years now, 1 playoff win under the Shanna plan.
No, it's time for him to go.
He's not. Sounds like
he's not. It looks like he's not. Maybe they're gonna reinvent his position. I don't know what they're gonna do. It seems very bizarre that Keith Pelly is involved with this tomorrow. Like, we never saw Richard Petty come out after a season.
Only at the start when he first took over MLSE did we really see him in public.
Oh, no, I think we saw Richard Petty a lot in public. Like, he used to co-host Primetime Sports when I used to produce that. He would come on a lot. Richard did. I remember once he asked me to go let his dog out so he could come on and do the show. True story. But anyway, like, it's just, I don't understand how Petty or Shanny can continue on. Keefe, you know what? Like, the guy had an incredible regular season record with this team. And he just, a lot of people are saying he couldn't motivate them for the playoffs. I tend to think that Mr. Fancy Pants in the group just couldn't play. They just can't play. They can't show up when it matters. And I gave Mitch Marner, as you know, I sort of changed halfway through the year because I thought maybe it would help, right? Mm-hmm. Just my saying that would help him. That's how superstitious I am. But it didn't. He was terrible, I thought, in the playoffs. Absolutely terrible. I don't think he even showered after any of the games because he didn't need to. Like, I'm serious. You saw him after a game, and his hair wasn't wet. Nothing. It's like, what is this guy doing? He's not putting out an effort, Ryan. And look, there's a lot of people to blame on that last overtime goal in Game 7. And I start with Samsonov. But Marner's got to, if he can't keep up with him, which he could, he's got to slow him down. And Morgan Riley's got to turn quicker. Like, there's a lot of people to blame. But
yeah, Marner's fresh off the bench there too. It is one of those things.
And like, I remember 2 years ago, before Albert gets back in here, 2 years ago, I said this team is jinxed. They're never going to win. What happens? This team is rolling. Game 5, Game 6. Boy, Joseph Woll looks great. Oh, guess what? Joe Woll's not playing Game 7. They're jinxed. I'm telling you, they're jinxed. And he got hurt on that last goal in Game 6 that didn't matter. Craziness. Just absolute craziness.
I don't blame you for feeling that way, of course, because you're a fan. Oh, there'll be more, Clarkey. And I understand
yes, you know
that.
Me too
I'm sure there are a lot of fan bases out there that feel the exact same way about their team. And Albert, I know you and Justin touched on this, on that winning goal. And because that was the penultimate moment, a lot of people were trying to, give their analysis of what went wrong there. And I know you guys were doing the same thing on Homestand Leafs. Share with our viewers and listeners your opinion of what went wrong there on David Pasternak's incredible game winner.
Yeah, similar to what Clarkey said, right? There's a bunch of breakdowns on that play. You'd hope that Marner in the neutral zone can at least, put a body
Slow him down.
Do something. He just reacted so slow to it, as did Morgan Riley, who I thought did not have a great playoff series. And then Samsonov is essentially inside of his net. He's under the bar, right? And I think that's just a hesitation from Samsonov. And he could have totally played that puck, decided not to. Lindholm, let's be honest, that's a brilliant play. Perfect play. That's something that they've actually done throughout the regular season. Yeah. And they executed it when it mattered the most. And the Leafs kind of just shot themselves in the foot. And Keefe kind of said it, right? In his exit interview, not even the exit interview, it was after the game. He goes, the Leafs find a way to beat themselves, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and if that puck hits this much, 4 inches on either side of that mark where it actually hit the boards, the puck's not coming in the middle of the ice. It was just a perfectly executed play. By the Bruins.
And that's really what it is in the postseason, right? It's all moments. You see a specific moment, and the Leafs couldn't do that. I mean, Nylander scores the first goal, which was a great goal.
Yeah. And then
Lindholm comes down the ice, the other end, and Samsonov lets in a softie. You make that save, and all of a sudden you're looking at a different game. But unfortunately for the Leafs, it doesn't go that way for them all the time.
And I've told Ryan all year, Samsonov is not going to be there when it matters. No, I'm sorry, I'm laughing because it's the other way around. But like, I thought, who did you think of right away when that goal goes in? Dart guy who sat here on this show last week. And he's like, do not blame Samsonov for any of the early games, blah, blah, blah. And Ryan said, yeah, he played well, but he can't stop the big one. And it proved it again. He can't stop the big one. Freddie Anderson, I think, same thing. He can't do it. If they're going to pull him, it looks like, for Game 3.
Yeah, so, he's not starting for Carolina. You know what? With Samsonov, he had a great season, and I thought it was one of the best stories actually in the NHL this season. And
it could have been even better.
Well. It obviously did not end well, but for him to be sent down to get his mind right because he lost his confidence completely, and his parents coming over from Russia to help him with that. And then coming back and bouncing back and having those fantastic games before the All-Star break against the Winnipeg Jets. You remember that 2-on-1 or 2-on-0 against the Jets, and it was Sammy. It looked like he was trending in the right direction. And a lot of what hurt him in the past popped up in the playoffs again, right? He has the ability to make great saves throughout the entire game, but can't make the save that you need at the moment in time. And that's been Samsonov's downfall, I think, his entire career with the Toronto Maple Leafs. And it looks like his time is over, right? He's a free agent.
Oh, yeah.
And now the Leafs actually have one goalie on the books, at least with the big club. You look at the Marlies, there's Dennis Hildeby. But with a club like the Toronto Maple Leafs, who have aspirations of winning the Stanley Cup, are you really going to put your faith in Joseph Woll, who's injury prone, unfortunately, and then Dennis Hildeby as your backup, who's never played in the NHL?
What would you do?
Oh, if it was me, I think they got to look at their list of priorities here. And number one, I think, was making a decision on the coach, on Sheldon Keefe, and they already done that. Okay, what's next? What's happening with Brendan Shanahan? I agree with Ryan. He's going to stay. If he's at that press conference, shoulder to shoulder with the president of MLSC and the general manager, he's going to be with the team in some way. I don't know what way that is. He still does have 1 year left on his contract.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Does his role get moved? Maybe, but we got to find out what's happening there. They got to get a coach and then start making some decisions. Are you going to roll with Wall or not? I love Wall, and I think he can be a really good goalie. But there's a serious issue with injuries in his history, because it's not just at the NHL level. With the Marlies, he missed like 8 months. He had a shoulder issue that turned into an ankle. It just seems to keep popping up. He got injured earlier this season.
Yep.
You want to put all your eggs in that basket? Like, there's the Leafs.
Well, especially if Hildeby's your backup.
Right. And the Leafs are a good team. And they are in, you can laugh at this, but they are in somewhat of a Stanley Cup window. They got really good players.
I'm not laughing at it. I totally agree.
Right. And you can put together a really good team there. There's over a dozen free agents.
Yeah.
So a new coach coming in and Brad Treliving are going to be able to mold the team the way that they want to complement the pieces that they already have. And one of the most important pieces that you need to look at is in between the pipes. So I would say go out there and try to find the best goalie available. That's hard to do. You look at Nashville, maybe UC Saros. If the Nashville Predators don't want to sign him, I think that they do. Barry Trotz has said they're going to talk to him. Do you look at Markstrom in Calgary? Because outside of that, when you look at the free agent list, boys, like, it is not pretty.
No.
A couple of guys at the top of that list are coming off the books of the Leafs. It's Matt Murray, it's Ilya Samsonov.
Yeah.
And then who else? There's Stolars and just guys that you won't trust as a true number one. So maybe go after a true number one if you can via trade market, or try and put together your best 1A and 1B and hope for the best.
And I would say you're absolutely right. That is a key contributor of what they got to look forward to going forward. But what do you do with Mitch Marner? Because he is the one who myself and the rest of the fan base has been all over, and justifiably so in my mind. Do they try to approach him and say, hey, you're going into your contract year. We want to move you. We want to move on. We're not going to re-sign you. Will you let us waive that no trade, no movement clause? Because if not, you're going to play in the third line and you might get 60 points. How do you like that going into into your contract year?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Keyword is try, Clarkey, right? I mean, he has all the power. They gave guys no move clause. I was just going through their cap friendly, and it's like everybody essentially has a no move clause.
I know.
David Kampf, why does a force
I know.
have a no move, a full no move?
Yeah.
Go look at Boston. Charlie McAvoy doesn't even have one. But you got David Kampf on the Leafs who's got a no move. Anyway, that's David Kampf. No shade on him. I'm just saying I don't understand why he has a no move.
Yeah.
When it comes to Marner, listen, he has the right to say screw you.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You guys gave me the no move. Here I am.
Yep.
I'm not willing to move. I want to stay here. I like playing for this team. I like playing in this market, even though maybe I find that hard to believe because he doesn't really enjoy being in front of the media. And we're hearing some really strange stories about him and security and pressuring media. I don't know if you guys caught that, but
no, fill us in. Can you fill us in?
Yeah. So on the James Myrtle podcast on The Athletic, the Leaf Report with Jonas Siegel, James Myrtle was saying something that Marner's camp has blackballed him. And there are times where Marner's security group has, pressured media, harassed certain members of the media. That's all that was said. This came out a couple of days ago, and I'm just surprised no one else is really talking about it because that seems like a pretty big story if that's the case.
Well, Steve Dangle, I know, had some problems with his.
Ask Steve Dangle what he thinks about.
Okay, yeah, this is the first time hearing about this, right? This is the first time hearing about
trouble
this.
like a year.
How is no one looking into this, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, back to the Marner thing. I'm of the belief that nothing is going to change. I'm surprised that Sheldon Keefe was fired, considering they wheeled him out for a press conference. I thought, okay, well, it looks like he's going to come back. I thought that was poor form from the Leafs, letting him hit the podium and do that, unless he wanted to do it knowing that there was a chance that he was going to get fired. I don't think he's a stupid guy. But when it comes to the core four, I don't see Tavares going anywhere. He's in the final year. He's making $11 million. He has the C. His family and kids are here. Why move? Unless the Leafs can retain some of his salary and make some sort of deal where he wants to go. But it's in the player's hand. And when it comes to Marner, I mean, it'd be great if he can come off the books, but I don't know why the player would say yes to that. I mean, if you look at recent history of some players who decided to waive the no trade, we had that this season, I think, with Tarasenko in Ottawa. He was willing to move his to go over to Florida. But then you can look at some recent history where you look at Torrey Krug in St. Louis, similar to John Tavares, family and kids. They asked him to move his no trade. He said, absolutely not, stay with the team. Bobrovsky did the same thing in Columbus. Linus Ullmark almost moved at the deadline, but wasn't happy with the geography of the team and said no. So I think the Leafs are going to probably have a similar situation. Unless Marner truly feels that he's not wanted here, he's completely uncomfortable with the media, then maybe they can work something out. But I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, well, I mean, he feels like they're treated like gods there, so I don't know why you'd want to leave that, right? I mean,
I will say, sorry, Ryan, to cut you off, but that gods comment, please. It was definitely the wrong time. It was tone deaf, read the room. But I understand what he was saying. You play for the Leafs, you're on a pedestal. And I think that's what he was trying to say. It just came out at the wrong way at the wrong time. And this is a guy who's just not comfortable in front of the cameras and the microphone.
Here's the thing about all that too. Like, I see a lot of people being very critical of him specifically for that.
Right.
No one would care about that. And he wouldn't have to take these very childish, petulant approaches to certain media members that he doesn't like with his security team. If he would just perform up to the contract standard that, remember, guys, he fought tooth and nail for alongside his dad and agent for himself. Mm-hmm. He's the one that said, I'll hold out and I won't show up at camp unless I get $10.893 million. And no, I won't sign for 8 years. And the Leafs at that time, they're probably kissing their lucky stars right now that they didn't get 8 years, because they'd have given it to him at the time. Mm-hmm. But now there's a year left. If he just showed up and performed, and again, look, I understand this is the best league in the world. It's hard, but you can't make that type of cheddar, and you especially can't be a guy in the loudest media market in the league, demand more money on a salary cap than a year after Nikita Kucherov signed for 9.5. And I want to hear about the tax and all that. It counts more against the cap. That's all fans care about. We don't care what Mitch Marner's check looks like.
Yeah, I couldn't care less.
He demanded more than Nikita Kucherov. After that guy had already won cups and won a Hart Trophy. Maybe he'll win another one this year. I don't think so. But he demanded more than that guy. You can't do all that stuff and then have 3 points in the playoffs. You cannot do it. In game sevens and all the game 7 heartbreaks that this Leafs team's gone through with Marner and Matthews and Nylander at the start of it, mostly at the center of it all, he has 2 assists in those game 7s.
And a -5.
2 assists and a -5. I mean, he's a major part of why this team has gone 13 of their last 14 playoff games scoring 2 or fewer goals. One time in the last 15, they scored 4. That's insane. You can't ask for that type of money and make all these demands and essentially hold this franchise hostage. And they gave it to him. Mm-hmm. That's not Mitch's fault that they gave it to him. Mm-hmm. But he held the gun first and said, this is what it'll be. And they caved and gave it to him. But then you can't turn around and go, oh, everybody's angry at me. I didn't do it. That's what strikes me about all this, Albert, and I'd love your opinion on this first. It's the same old story result-wise, but it's the same old story in terms of taking ownership. I didn't hear a single one of them come out to the media and say, I was terrible and I don't accept this. I need to be better and I'm sorry. Like nothing. Just, we think we're close. We think we're close.
That's the scary one, that the captain is saying we're right there. I think that's what pisses off Leaf fans the most is the accountability thing. Come out and be honest, right? Say we weren't good enough. Yeah, listen, I could have been a lot better. I'm making the most money, or, I'm one of the 4 guys making the most money on this team. I should have performed better, and I didn't. I let my team down. But it's just, we know this group, right? This is no longer a small sample size. This is 8 seasons, right? 6 seasons, I believe, with John Tavares. Yeah. And it's the same old story. You can, if you go back, and I've done it, go back to exit interviews over the past seasons and rewatch this year's. It's essentially the same thing.
Oh,
yeah. You got Morgan Riley is in near tiers. You have Mitch Marner and Austin Matthews and Nylander essentially saying the same things. We're a tight group, and we're close, and we're going to get there. And then the coach comes out and takes all the blame.
Mm-hmm.
Just rinse and repeat with the Toronto Maple Leafs, unfortunately.
I want to see mad instead of sad. I want to see them pissed off, and
yeah,
you know what I mean?
None of them are.
You want to see, and that's McKinnon, the problem. Right? That's basically. It's
McKinnon,
just, they don't have it in them.
They don't. Any of those guys that would lose, and they'd go out and just be so angry. And again, I hate to do this to you, Clarkey. Like every year, Ovi, everyone, he's the problem. At least Ovi showed up and put points up and was a point per game player in every series that he was in, aside from this year as a decrepit old man. At least he showed up every year and had 10 points and said, they lose in game 7 to the New York Rangers. Ovi had 10 points, but he would sit there and go, I wasn't good enough and I need to be better. Where's any of that from these guys? There's no attitude.
No, the only one who took it was
the attitude.
Keefe's the only one who owned up to it.
Keefe's the only guy, and he put out, Albert, you referenced it earlier, that special statement on Twitter from the Lakeside, thanking the Leafs and thanking the organization and all that, and the fans. I thought that was an incredibly classy thing to do because, again, he is paying the price. Much like lots of coaches we've seen over the years paid the price for star players making lots of cheddar, not coming through and getting the job done. And the coach is always the one that gets the short end of the stick. Yeah. These guys have literally become, I don't consider myself an expert in anything. These guys, if you want to learn how to lose and lose in crushing, heartbreaking fashion,
I wish they just had a loss in game 5.
Experts. A lot of people have said that to me. Albert, do you feel that way?
Sorry, say that again, Clarkey?
I wish they just had a loss in game 5.
Oh, I've heard a lot of Leafs fans saying that too. I'll be honest. I thought games 5, 6, and 7 were the best playoff games I've seen from this core and underneath this Sheldon Keefe era. I really believe that.
No dispute.
They played
but it just
hockey.
made it more painful going to game 7 and losing in overtime again. Again.
Yeah, no, it makes it worse. It makes the blow feel a lot harder than it was. But it's so interesting that Keefe loses his job the year where he probably puts together his best year as a coach, I believe, based on what he had to go throughout this entire season, right? Well, you have Joseph Woll, who you want your number one to be starting this season, starts really well, has an injury. Samsonov comes in, the guy who helped you win a round for the first time in however long. And then he kind of loses it between the ears. Now you're kind of stuck. What do we do? Do we go with Martin Jones? Do we go with the guy in the Marlies? Our defense is falling apart. Morgan Riley doesn't have a great year. The number 2 in TJ Brody took such a dip this season to the point where he played one game in the playoffs. And then, the forward group, you had William Nylander had a great year. He had a few dips. Mitch Marner wasn't great. He went through injuries. Morgan Riley suspended. Questions about what's going to happen during the trade deadline, all this stuff. Are they going to make the playoffs? And they did. And Sheldon Keefe had to deal with a makeshift defense. He had to hope that Ilya Samsonov can somehow put it together and get his team to play the best way possible. And then he gets to the playoffs. The first 4 games, not so great. And then I don't know what happened. A switch just flipped on. And they started listening to him, I guess, and started playing some really good defensive playoff hockey, albeit in front of a really good goalie. But a lot of that comes down to the coach. And obviously on the flip side of that, you're like, well, okay, there's some positives, but the power play was 1 for 21. The penalty kill wasn't great.
Okay, before we let you go, there's a vacancy. Who are you filling it with?
That's a tough one. I know everyone's throwing out Craig Berube. That seems to be the guy at the top of the list. If you go on certain sports books, he's in minus money. He's the favorite to take the job over. I'm just of the belief that they need a new voice. I think they need a really experienced guy. So you have Berube in there. I like Gerard Gallant. If you're looking for the experience, he's a heavily experienced coach. He's been to the Stanley Cup Finals.
Yep.
He doesn't have a ring. I know Berube does. That kind of carries a lot of weight for some people.
Yep.
But I think this core needs someone who's been there, done that, somewhat of a hard-nosed guy. Sometimes you just need a change. And it's not just a coach. It's got to be personnel. But you look at what happened in Edmonton. Jay Woodcroft's a really good coach. But he gets fired because the players are underperforming. In comes Chris Knobloch, who's never coached in the NHL ever, and they go on this incredible run, right? So sometimes it's that new voice. It's that kick in the ass that the players need. But they've kind of already had this kick in the ass, right? Babcock was here. He had a ring. He had the experience, and I get it. A lot of that core was younger at the time.
Yeah.
But that's happened before. So you're hoping now, okay, they've matured a little bit. They're older. They've grown into themselves as players and as Toronto Maple Leafs. Maybe all they need is that little kick in the ass to get over the line. But there's a lot that needs to be done, boys. You're looking at goaltending. There's over a dozen free agents, defensemen. What's happening with Bertuzzi and Domi? You're going to make a decision on Mitch Marner. There's a lot to do for this Toronto Maple Leafs team. It's incredible, actually, heading into the season, considering they want to be a team that wins the Stanley Cup. There might be somewhat of a massive overhaul, and if there isn't, I would expect more of the same from the Leafs, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's a very, very tumultuous offseason. I've had a few people who are Leafs fans also point out to me, well, they got goalied again. Unacceptable answer to me. Any excuse thrown at me at this point, and I felt this way 2 years ago. Any excuse thrown at me anymore, I can't handle it anymore. I don't care. You don't pay 4 forwards over half your cap to get goalied. That's unacceptable to me. I will say, for that crowd, highest save percentage from a goalie in a series in the last decade with a minimum of 6 games being played in the series. Braden Holtby, a 968 in 2016 in round 1. I remember that year. Jake Ottinger, 2022, 954 in round 1. Jeremy Swayman, round 1 this year, a 950 save percentage. Pretty incredible. Also, the Leafs, the second team in MLB, NBA, NFL, or NHL history, North American sports, to make the playoffs 8 straight years, but win only 1 playoff round. The only other team to ever do that was the 80s and early 90s Buffalo Sabres.
Yeah, that one stings, eh? There is some truth to that being goalie thing, though. I know it's not an excuse, but you have Swayman, you have Bobrovsky, you have Vasilevsky, you have Carey Price. Those 4 goalies goalied the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm not saying that that's the excuse, but they do run into some unbelievable goaltending.
I know, Albert, but it's the playoffs. You're going to run into good teams.
I get it.
That probably have a good goalie. The Caps beat Vasilevsky. Come on here.
Well, the Leafs beat Vasilevsky too. I know what Albert's saying. It's just their division is one of the toughest in hockey. Like you look at the other divisions, especially around, it's like I can only wish that
it's one of the toughest now.
It is. I do think that they found something in the last few games in terms of how to play. I know it was under Sheldon Keefe, but it's just it was a different Leafs team. Like so they wanted it more at certain times. It's just unfortunate that it came down to one moment that kind of screwed them over. But
it looked like they figured it out a little bit. They played like crap in the first 4 games. That's the problem. Especially game 1 and game 4 inexcusable. Yeah,
like totally
100%.
Yeah, Albert, you brought up earlier, we thought 5, 6, and 7 were probably the best games in this, under Keefe. Yeah. 1 and 4 were the worst. They were atrocious. Other than the entirety of the Florida series last year. They were bad in every single second of every one of those games. They were terrible.
True. You know what? A lot of people want to compare what Ovechkin and the Caps did to what the Leafs can potentially do. You can't, because the thing is with the Caps, before they ended up winning with Ovechkin, and you know this, Ryan, they were winning playoff rounds before that. The Leafs don't even know what it's like to play in game 6 of round 2. The Leafs, this core over this past 8 years. So you can't.
I'm glad you pointed that out.
I'm hearing a lot of Yzerman had to wait a long time and Ovechkin had to wait a long time. Well, while they were trying to get there, they were doing winning along the way. Right? This is a completely different story.
I know. And in closing, not only that, there was a lot of changeover in Washington. Ovi and Backstrom stayed. Mike Green, Semin, every friggin' goalie they had, four coaches.
Yeah.
So
You
many.
got to keep rolling the dice until you get it right.
Sergei Fedorov, Arnott.
I agree.
Like, there was a lot of change. Mike Knuble. They didn't have no move clauses, and they were able to change their roster.
Yeah.
Just quickly, sorry, Ryan, just quickly before you go, like there has to be some sort of ruthlessness from whoever's in charge. Whether that's going to be like a Pelly and Tree Living combo, you have to look at Vegas and look what they've done. Marc-Andre Fleury, you are fantastic. See you later. Max Pacioretty, see you later. You know,
they're going to do it to Marchessault.
They're going to do it to Marchessault. And if you want to look at, you know, presidents and having over a decade of time with one team, here's the perfect comparison. Cam Neely came in 4 years before Shanahan arrived in Toronto with Boston. Mm-hmm. Since then, Shanahan has won one playoff round with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Cam Neely has been to the finals 3 times and has a championship.
Mm-hmm.
There is a big difference here, and it's because there is that element of ruthlessness about the president and the organization.
They traded Tyler Seguin.
Exactly. Seguin couldn't cut it there. Unfortunately, he couldn't play in that market, and it's very similar to what's going on with Mitch Marner. And I don't want this to sound like this is like the pick on Mitch Marner party, but
that's fine.
Matthews and Nylander aren't going anywhere. They're locked up. So it comes down to 2 other guys. It's Marner and Nylander who are on expiring contracts. So those are the 2 guys you look at. And if you remove those 2 guys from the equation, that is an incredible shakeup that I think Clarkey and every other Leaf fan believes can do some good for this team. You lose those 2 guys, you still have 2 of the elite forwards in the NHL. Yeah. And now you have over $20+ million in cap space by taking those 2 guys off. Now you got a defenseman, you got a goaltender, and all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, this looks like a Stanley Cup winning team now.
Yeah. I think, to finish off, I really think there's going to be some sort of restructuring of Shanahan's role that we'll find out on Friday morning. That Treliving basically isn't going to be a puppet. And he's going to have the right to make a hockey deal if he wants to without running it by him. And that's what Dubas wanted, and they said no. And any GM is going to want that, right? Yeah. And I have a feeling that we're going to hear something like that on Friday morning, but time will tell.
Yes, sir.
Time will tell. And we really appreciate Albert Vartanian's time. He is the host of Homestand Leafs. Again, listen to that show. Albert and Justin Pooney, they're fantastic on there. I love when you and Justin get going at each other. It's always fun to listen. His Canucks are doing well. So good for Justin. Give him our best. Albert, thanks for doing this, brother.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, more Leafs moratoriums, eulogies, whatever you want to call it, with Todd Crocker, the voice of the Marlies, a guy who had an awful lot of experience with the now gone Sheldon Keefe. We will talk to Todd next here on Instigating. Welcome back to Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by Conway Furniture, our friends at Larry Hudson, Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and of course the Listowel Squash Courts. Thanks to our friend Albert Vartanian from Homestand Leafs. Find the podcast on all your favorite apps. For joining us in the first segment, and as promised, a man who's got a lot of experience watching the early parts of Sheldon Keefe's pro coaching career, and a man who knows the Toronto Maple Leafs and that organization, and in particular the prospects that are on the way very well. The voice of the Marlies, Todd Crocker, joining us. Todd, how are you, man?
I feel pretty good, despite the fact that I have a long summer ahead of me. That is kind of unusual in the world of the Marlies. You usually don't get this kind of time. They're a team, in my experience, at least the time that I've been there, that has always gone 1 or 2 at least rounds in the playoffs. But this is foreign to me, but I'll embrace it.
Yeah, well, and on that note, you know, the Marlies have done a lot of winning playoff rounds, something that the parent club just can't seem to figure out. And of course, won that championship not too distantly long ago, and Sheldon Keefe was at the helm of that. Kyle Dubas brought him in when he was in charge of the Marlies program when he first joined the organization under Lou, and they won there and had a lot of really promising young players. They continue to have a lot of promising young players. What in your mind has gone wrong with the parent club? Why can't they figure out what their AHL affiliate is so good at?
Well, there's two parts to that, and I think the first part is you got to give just a little bit of credit to the fact that there are a number of other teams that are interested in also winning the Stanley Cup and also being a part of it, and those teams were awfully good during the time that Sheldon Keefe was trying to get his team past that first round. So you run into Tampa, you run into Boston when they're at their best. The year that Montreal did it, that's fateful. I don't know. Sometimes I look at that one and think that was the one that got away. I'm sure he does too. But I also think that there's part of that has to be, and a pretty significant part of it that has to say, look, that's game 7 in their building. Like you've got to say that that's why you play, to get home ice advantage. And nothing to me spoke more to that than how the final goal was scored. But aside from that, aside from the opponents year in, year out, I think one of the things that was difficult to get by was to find that right mix in the end that really had a time to gel, put together, and get going forward. And I think sometimes that club had a group and still does have a group that is invested year in, year out. And then you've got to get some guys along for the ride that feel like this thing is a bit of a juggernaut, that it can go after that. And then figuring that out from a coaching standpoint, from a playing standpoint, from a room standpoint, it's not the easiest thing in the world to make happen if you've changed out a significant amount of parts.
Todd, I remember we had you on back in November of 2019. Have we been doing this show that long, Ryan? Like, it seems like a long time ago. But I remember asking you before we actually got on the air, and I said, what can we expect from Sheldon Keefe? And you said a Stanley Cup. Well, I never got it, so I'm holding you responsible. But why do you think he couldn't get them across the finish line?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of answers to that. But one of the answers that I'm going to sound like such a Leafs fan here.
That's
but
fine. That's fine. We can have misery together.
Yeah, one of the answers is, what kind of luck has it that William Nylander isn't available in the beginning of this round? What kind of luck has it that Matthews isn't available and then isn't 100%? What kind of luck is it that Joseph Wall doesn't get to play? Not that goaltending was a problem in the final game. I just found that year in, year out, and I know other teams go through this kind of thing, but when you win and you go through it, it's easily forgotten. When you lose and you go through it, as a fan, you internalize that like somehow it is building up on you year in, year out. Like, there isn't a curse. I don't believe in that kind of thing. But just the string of like absolute bad luck that has befallen this team is the one thing that I think to myself, there's no coach in the world that can coach you out of a situation. Not in hockey. The game starts, and as a coach, you have very few options in front of you as how you can affect the outcome of a game. You can change the goaltender. You can flip your lines around. You can mix up your people a little bit, your line combinations. Outside of a few things, it's not like you can all of a sudden say to yourself, you know what? We're going to go back and we're going to draw up an entirely different way of doing things. It's not football, where every play you are trying to exploit something that is happening on the other side. It's happening so fast that all the coaching that goes into it is, I don't know what percentage it is, but I'm going to say it's 80% happens before the game even starts. And so for me, I think that part of the game is the absolute strength of Sheldon Keefe. I saw it firsthand. His preparation is like nobody's business. And getting that group and this group going forward in the future over that next step. Somebody may end up looking like a hero here, but there will be a lot of work that has been done by Sheldon Keefe and the staffs that he has had and the support staff that he's had around him that will have contributed to this. Oftentimes the person who crosses the finish line is the person who gets the medal, but there's a lot of people that deserve it too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's interesting. And, Sheldon is a guy that, we were talking about this with Albert in the last segment from Homestand Leafs. And again, he just ends up being an inconvenient fall guy to me. And I have no doubt he'll land on his feet and coach again. There's rumors already that the Devils are sniffing around him. I think the guy's a very good coach. Listen, people don't maybe recognize this. Sheldon Keefe won significantly at every level before he got to the Maple Leafs. When I first became aware of him in terms of the coaching scene, I remember watching him play, of course. When I first became aware of him, he was coaching the Tier 2 Junior A Pembroke Lumber Kings and won 4 of 5 championships. He turned that, and that franchise wasn't very good when he arrived. He turned them into a wagon. And then, yeah, absolutely. And bought into it too. And then he moves up and joins Kyle in the Sioux, turned what was a pretty tough few years in the Sioux into a very, very good team, joins the Marlies, wins a title, gets to the Leafs. And it bothers me when people say, well, Sheldon Keefe couldn't pull this off. Again, I just think that this is squarely at the feet of these players, particularly the ones that get these legacy contracts when they have no legacy and they don't pull through and do it. And Todd, I understand, the bad luck and Matthews is sick and Nylander across the entirety of these 8 playoff years. It's just built up. There's a lot of excuses getting tossed around.
I know.
And I'm just I'll be honest, Clarkey, and I didn't say this off the top of the show. I'm bored of doing this show. I really am.
We've done it too many times.
I'm bored of doing this Leafs eulogy, and I'm not even a fan. I'm so bored of this, Todd. These players can't seem to get it done.
Well, let me also say this, that and this is the part that I think probably is the toughest thing every year in, year out, after you exit in the first round, which is an inconvenient off-ramp, quite honestly, second round last year. And if you had said, okay, well, they got to the conference final, or they got to the final even, and they lost. And as Boston has done, right? They won back, was it 2012 or whatever? Well, what have you done since? Well, 2011. So what have you done since? Well, have you won the Stanley Cup since? No, but are the fans satisfied with not winning the Stanley Cup? Because, as Ricky Bobby says, if you ain't first, you're last. But so the truth is, there are a bunch of other teams in this league that are disappointed every year. You don't get, if you don't get past the first round, would it really have mattered to the fans if they got to the conference final? I guess, and lost. They'd still be calling for blood at that point too, depending on how they lost, depending on who they lost to. So I don't know. I kind of feel like where you go out is a little bit like pulling the goalie when it's 5-3. It's like, well, who cares if it's 6-3? Who cares if it's 7-3? Just pull the goalie. Let's just see if we can make something happen here. So in one sense, who cares if it's the first round or second round or third round? You're in it to win the Stanley Cup, and they are a team. This is going to sound odd because I do agree with kind of the narrative that has come along. Like, they're not close. But they are close, because I don't think anybody can take a look at the 16 teams that are in it and not say that 12 of them could win the Stanley Cup, maybe even higher, right? I saw it this year in the American League in our division, the North Division. 7 teams, 2 didn't make it. We did make it just on the edge, but all 7 of them had the chops to go and dive into the main course. And yet 2 of them didn't. And now the Marlies went out. Now 2 more are going to be out. And yet every single one of them I think, was good enough in this league to go that far. And so I think every team that made it to into the Stanley Cup playoffs, I would say, I'm going to say 12, just to, throw it out there. But I think they all had a chance if the puck falls your way sometimes. And sometimes we don't want to fly into that. We don't want to fly into luck. We want to throw it at the feet of grit. Well, the more grit you put out there, the less you're going to score. You got to have the guys who are scoring score for you, and that didn't happen this year. And that probably concerned Sheldon Keefe. It probably concerned the players themselves that they're not out there. Matthews isn't out there to not score. He knows his business. He knows what he's out there to do. And he knows when he looks back at the videotape of this, and he will, that where was I? How could I have been here? Was I, he'll ask 1,000 questions of himself, as will Nylander. And that, to me, has got to be how you drive things forward. And will you get past the first round next year? Great. Maybe you do. Maybe you get all the way to the conference final. Maybe you win it all, or maybe you don't. But I don't know if Leaf fans will be satisfied if they get to a cup final and are out in 4. Some people will no doubt say at the end of that, I would have rather gone out in the first round instead of investing, although quite honestly, they'll be heroes for the next, however long until somebody does win a Stanley Cup. Anybody who gets to a cup final in Toronto will be heralded for sure. But I really do think that there's something there that has to be said, that there's competition out there that is as good. And they were, in this case, 1 goal better. 1 goal, 7 games, 1 goal. That's a hard pill to swallow, I know, for fans, but it's a harder pill to swallow for them. They actually did the work.
You mentioned the guys who were injured with Nylander and Matthews and, of course, Wall the last game. But there was a guy who missed the playoffs who I thought really came on during the season, and the Leafs dearly missed him. And you saw a lot of them. 2-part question. 1, did you see it in Bobby McMahon, what he actually did with the Leafs when he was with the Marlies? And 2, is there another Bobby McMahon coming up next year that maybe the Leafs can look forward to?
Bobby McMahon, right away, first of all, he set the Marlies goal scoring record for a rookie, which, to be fair, he beat Josh Levo, who came out of junior. Bobby came out of 4 years at Colgate as the captain. Did I see him after that year? After that year, and as that year progressed, I saw him getting better and better, because remember, he starts in the ECHL here. And then quickly is up with the Marlies. Quickly, you understand that the guy is strong and has a real strength to him, wood-cutting strength, we'll call it. And so you recognize that. And then you start to see him win battles because of that strength. And then with working with player development, you see him get smarter and smarter and learn veteran things that are passed along to him that he doesn't just get and then kind of, okay, well, I'll use it. He employs them. And that made the difference for him. When he got up to the Leafs, he had veteran knowledge that is passed along through player development. He's able to employ it. Lots of guys get that information. Not sure everybody uses it. And so when Bobby got there, I thought, I think he's gone now. I don't think he's going to come back. And that was about 2 months in, I guess. And when he left the last time, not often this happens, but when he left the last time, I said, I did say to myself as he went out the door, I don't think he's coming back. And that there aren't many players you'd say that about. The last, I can only think, I remember George Laraque went up the last time when he went up when I was in Hamilton, and I thought, no, that's it. We'll not see George again. And the AHL didn't. So coming up out of now, the Marlies are in a situation where they are everybody that they get now is going to spend some time with the Marlies. And that means that if Fraser Minton next year starts with the Marlies, he's going to see some time, and he should see some time with the Marlies, perhaps. But most of the players that come along now are coming out of the 4th, 5th, 6th round, and they need time in the American Hockey League to find that game, find that speed, find the physical play of it. And I think you saw that from Topi Niemela and Mikko Kokkonen this year. A couple of Finns who grew into the game, became guys who could be relied on. Topi's got a pretty good offensive sense about him, but they've got to get bigger. They've got to get stronger, and they both know it. A couple of really good defensemen there. Guy like Nick Abruzzese, who started out his first year in the American League. And, some fans will grab onto that and go, oh, yeah, Nick Abruzzese. And in his first year, good player, but a -5. This year, +16, I think, was where he finished out as. Grew as a two-way player. Grew as a guy who has a skill that translates pretty good at the next level. He's a good playmaker. He sees guys. Now, what Nick will have to find in order to get to that next level is timing, because those guys at that level, they don't miss much. And so they're in the right spot at the right time, and a playmaker can really feed off that. So I think that is there another Bobby McMahon, another guy who's big, strong, and going to smash guys against the boards? We'll see. But right now, those are the guys.
Do you think the Leafs? Well, what do you think they'll do in net? Like, how good is Hildeby? And do you think they would consider a Wall-Hildeby combo next year? Because there's no one else right now.
No, I don't think right away. Although, Joseph Wall came into the Marlies, and he set all kinds of records for that you don't want, and like career all-time Marlies record for yikes. And but then as he grew summer to summer, year to year, he got better technically, and he was terrific athletically in the beginning. That doesn't work at this level. It doesn't work at the next level. You have to use that as your backup, not the first thing that you're going to do. And so Joseph was a smart player, and he's going to be that player. Dennis, his size he's 6'7". He's one of the only guys when I do an interview who looks down at me. I'm like, wow, this is what it looks like for other people. But he's pretty solid. And here's the other thing that I like about Dennis Hildeby. Is he going to be ready for day one? Maybe not day one, but he's going to be ready at some point because he's solid. I don't think, knock on wood here, but injury wise, I think he's a pretty solid guy that way. He is in phenomenal shape, and he is already technically pretty good. And I think if he can just play with his head a little bit more, a little smarter, a little more experience. I've seen that before. I'm not going to do that again. And I think, working with Hannu Toivonen has done him wonders, absolute wonders.
I want to take you back to Game 3 of the Marlies Belleville Senators game and post game and the handshakes. And I want to play. Adam's got these ready. I think I want to play first the Ottawa Senator broadcast. Adam, if you want to roll that now, let's roll it and listen to what happens.
But look for those tickets to go on sale midweek. And again, Kyle Clifford cannot control himself. Get that guy out of here. What a joke. Get him out of here. This is ridiculous. Suck it up and take the loss.
Okay, so that's the Sens broadcaster. Now let's flip over to Todd Crocker calling it from the Marlies perspective. Adam?
Game winner in overtime, just 2:37, and now Imama and Kyle Clifford get into it. And first of all, I will tell you that Volko Imama said some horrible things the other night on the bench to Kyle Clifford. And Clifford comes over, shakes hands with David Bell. Things that, quite honestly, I don't know if the Marlies would ever do this, file some sort of protest, but that was ridiculous, and that's what precipitated that exchange. And the Toronto Marlies will head off here as they took one overtime in this series, but they do not become the second team ever to win a 3-game series after losing the first game.
So anyway,
they organize up the rest.
What, Todd, tell us what was going on there. We saw two different dynamics of how that was called. Maybe your counterpart with the Sens didn't know what happened, but what happened?
Oh no, he definitely did not. And you know, I don't fault David for anything in that situation. He's calling it with his heart, and they hate the Marlies up there. For sure. The level of it is incredible, and there's no love lost between the two teams. You play 10 games a year against each other. It's quite honestly, it's too much. But 8 would be the cap I would put it at. Mm-hmm. But regardless, so in that situation in game 2, now I'll also say this. Boko Imama in the pregame has a little bit of a kind of like sometimes you see it in junior hockey, where guys squirt water bottles on the other side and then they cross the red line. They try to take guys down. And reminds me of the old Albany Adirondack series that used to go on in the American League, Marty Latra, guys like that, who just, they try to get under each other's skin. Well, you don't see much of it anymore in professional hockey because, quite honestly, it doesn't work. And it doesn't really get you unhinged. And then, as I say, he came off the ice at one point, and he and Clifford had a bit of an exchange. It was at the Coliseum. And, they kept going back and forth. Like, I don't know, if you're at the Coliseum, there's no separation except glass, between the two benches. So Kyle was sitting on the stool right next to it, and Imama was standing up, and he was shouting and screaming and just all sorts of things. Like, obviously, I didn't know what was being said, but you could tell all of a sudden that he had said something that Clifford just couldn't believe. So, usually what happens there is, anybody who's played hockey and listened to trash talk has been like, oh, okay, whatever fantasy you want to make up in your mind, go ahead, whatever. And I don't think anybody truly gets goaded too much by that stuff anymore, maybe. And but what was said offended Kyle Clifford, who is a veteran of the National Hockey League with 2 Stanley Cups in his pocket. And I'm going to guess Kyle's heard it all. Mm-hmm. And so he gets upset. And so he kind of, at the end of the period, calls David Bell over, the coach of the the Belleville Senators. And he says, so you could see he's not interested in talking to Kyle Clifford. He's like, oh, what's going on here? But I give David Bell credit here, gives him his time. This is game 2, by the way. Gives him time. Comes over it. Says, okay. And the look on his face went from, here we go, to, okay, I got you. So what was said fell outside the boundaries of what is okay to say, which also falls into a level of something that somebody probably needed to do something about at that point. But all gets kind of left behind, and it all goes, kind of away. Game 3 shows up in Belleville, and then that happens. And to suggest that a guy who's made $20 million in his career needs to get into it with a guy who's playing on the 4th line in the American Hockey League in a handshake line is, quite frankly, ridiculous. And when you have a little bit of experience in the game, you understand that, okay, what I'm seeing here is unusual. Again, not not something I hadn't seen in my early days in the American League, but certainly something where you're like, oh, okay, well, this is not great. But the fans deserve some sort of explanation that is maybe just shy of actually saying what exactly was said, because that's up to Kyle if he wants to push that forward or push that narrative forward, and it's up to the Marlies as well if they wanted to go to the league. I suppose they could have gone to the league and said, hey, this level is not okay to say something about. But I'll leave it to them. But I got to tell you, when you move outside the boundaries of what gets said in a hockey rink, you are way outside the boundaries of what gets said in normal conversation.
Yeah, it was quite a thing, and I saw a lot of people speculating online about it. It's, I don't know, some of the stuff that was getting thrown around online, I certainly hope that some of that stuff wasn't actually said, but you're right. I mean, Cliff, like, that dude's been in the battle before. I mean, you think back to those LA series with Chicago and Vancouver, like battles, right? And like, for him to do something like that, I felt the same way when I first saw it. I thought somebody said something to that dude. I don't know. Tough situation for sure.
And not something like, hey, we beat you.
No.
Something really offside. Very personal.
Everybody can accept that. It's like, okay, you're going to be like that in the line. Well, fine, whatever. We shake hands, we go our separate ways. But we're talking about things that I just and I see people who defended it or whatever. I get it. You gotta sell tickets. You gotta. This guy's got to be on your team. You got to have all the oars in the water. It's the playoffs, 100% all the way around about it. But everybody finds their high water mark. That's all. That's what I'll say at the end of it. And we'll see what transpires as next season rolls along from here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. Well, we all hope that the Leafs can finally find a high water mark, Todd, and we really appreciate your insight and your thoughts on it. I really don't want to do this show again next year. I'm really sick and tired of it, man. I'm bored.
So let me ask you this: just like, would you mind doing the show if it were a conference final that the Leafs went out in? Is that a different conversation, or is it the same conversation, just a different timeline?
I think it probably.
I don't accept anything but a Stanley Cup. Like, I don't think any, or a Calder Cup in my case. But like, that's what you're in it for. I've been lucky enough to call 4 Calder Cups, and I got to tell you, you call it when you're part of a championship team that does championship things. I called a Game 7 that the Bulldogs lost, or called a series there where the Bulldogs lost in Game 7, and it just was devastating. And then a win that they had. I called a neutral game between Texas and St. John's, which was fascinating and interesting. And then the Marlies win in a Game 7, decisive win in a Game 7. And the journey that is exhilarating. But when you lose in the final, it's a devastating feeling that is really hard to come back from.
Yeah, no, for sure.
For sure. I don't know what the future holds. I just hope it's a little bit more progress than this.
And
Me too.
I just want to mention that Todd does not have the Jenna Clark equipment manager scarf on tonight, but it's still around. I've heard, we talked about it earlier. It's still around. It's
next time.
Household. Next time you'll have it on.
Next time.
Jenna knitted it for Todd.
You have me on in the winter. That's the key.
Yeah. Okay.
Get me on mid-season when I'm somewhere in like Syracuse. Well,
it's a joke, Ryan, that just never ends. Todd lost one of them, and Jenna made another one.
Lost?
He left it in a car or something.
I think it was such a nice scarf. Someone probably stole it. Possibly. The scarf.
I think the guy made off with the scarf. I sold a car, and I left the scarf in the car. And the guy drove down the street, and literally as I was walking back to my front door, I went, "Oh, my scarf is in that car." And I walked back out to to the front of my driveway, and I looked down the street. The guy's long gone.
It was probably blowing out the way. He probably had it
Yeah.
on. It was,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like
And
the
he's
Pink
still
Panther
wearing
or
it.
something.
he probably is. That was a good scarf. That was a good
He
scarf.
probably
That's okay.
is.
yeah.
Todd,
Well,
we really,
some of your
really
walks to the
appreciate
rink
this,
we'll
eh?
be watching next year too.
Yes,
Oh,
we will
man.
be.
Yeah.
All right, you guys come along anytime.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for doing this, Todd. All right.
Cheers.
We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Clarkey and I have got to hand out our Conway Furniture Couch Potato of the Week awards. And, well, I feel like we know at least what some of our nominees might be. That'll be next here on Instigating. Wrapping things up this week here on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury, brought to you by our friends at Conway Furniture, Larry Hudson, Chevrolet Buick GMC, Listowel Squash Courts, thanks to Albert Vartanian of Homestand Leafs. Find the podcast on all your favorite apps, just like this show. And our friend Todd Crocker, voice of the Marlies, for helping us dissect another real fun Toronto Maple Leafs playoff run. How about that? 40 years. What's that all about? Larry Hudson's?
40
wow.
years. 40 years.
For
Larry
40
Hudson.
years, unlike
Yes.
the Toronto Maple Leafs, ladies and gentlemen, for 40 years, Hudson's has had it. That special thing.
Has had
Clarkey,
it.
tell them.
Has had it.
Has had it. I like
Has
that.
had
I
it.
like that a lot. We've
And
had
right
it with
now-
the Maple Leafs.
with
Tell
a
us.
purchase. Free hat with a purchase.
Wow.
Come on in, get yourself you can come by, Ryan, too, and I'll get you a hat. Okay. You just drop
Oh,
by.
okay. I don't even
You
need to
just
buy a
drop by.
car from
Well,
you.
you do, but I'll sort of,
The
cheat the
backdoor
rules a
deal.
little.
Yeah. That's a
exactly.
sharp bucket.
Exactly.
That's
It-
a sharp bucket,
It
man.
is. New logo.
How about
Kinda cool.
that?
New old
Hudson's
logo.
has it.
But right now, Larry Hudson's, today was an exciting day because
Oh,
we got
okay.
in a delivery of the new Chevy Traverse, the 2024 Chevy Traverse, all new redesigned.
Wow.
It's amazing. It's really good. And another brand new redesigned GMC Acadia Denali.
Oh.
Oh, talk about a nice looking vehicle. This thing has an iPad that's like bigger than I don't know. I should know this, but it's so brand new. I don't know the exact dimensions of the
That's
screen.
okay.
But this thing is huge. This screen in this vehicle is unbelievable. And
I will
they
say
are
I've seen
very
the
nice.
inside of it. I've seen the inside of them. It looks like you're taking off to space, like you're going to the
Pretty
space
much.
station. It's
Pretty
an
much.
incredible looking cockpit.
But we've been
You
waiting for these vehicles. They arrived Thursday. So they're there. If you want
can
to
find
look at
them.
one of them sold already, quick. But you can still come and take a look, and we have more coming in. So get your name on one that's coming in. Come and see me or your sales rep, and let's get her done.
Larry Hudson's
Hudson's has hat it.
hat it. Yes, Hudson's
That's
has it
it.
because the deals are hot.
They are
Deals-
hot.
The deals are always red hot, unlike all of the Leafs' top scorers. Okay, really quick now. Let's do
Time.
this.
It's
What
time to
about
change
this?
hats.
It's time now. Look, before quickly, because
Yeah.
we did this for the first
Yeah,
round.
we gotta
and
go.
Last
no,
year, Clarkey,
yeah.
you had a really good.
Oh, yeah, we're
you had a
doing this
really good
with-
first round.
I did.
You had a really good first round last year. In terms of
Last year.
picks.
Yeah, not. I was going to say.
You
I
outpicked
don't think
me
I had
7. You outpicked me 7-4 this year. This year, I crushed. The only team
Yeah,
that
no,
I got wrong was the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Really, eh?
They
That's
kept
the
me from
only
a perfect
one.
bracket. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that.
Yes. I
Oh,
won
I'm so
7 of the
sorry.
picks, something that the Leafs can't ever seem to do. Anyway,
So you got 7
round
this year.
2.
I had 7 last year.
That's right. Yes.
and I have,
we've
and it was the
interchanged.
Leafs that killed me last year. No, they won last
Yes.
year. Sorry, no, they won.
That's
last
not
year.
true. No,
I-
that's not
just-
true. Last
no.
year you got killed by who was it last year?
I
that
don't.
hurt
Doesn't
you in the
matter. It's
first
irrelevant.
round?
Let's move on. We're late. We
Boston.
gotta go.
Boston hurt you.
Boston lost.
It was
Maybe.
Boston.
Right.
Okay, quickly here. Second round picks.
Yeah.
I can go first if
Yeah,
you like,
go.
Clarkey.
Let's go. Let's
I've
go.
got
We gotta
them.
move.
Round 2, Rangers in
Okay.
6. That's my pick. As we take a look, those are the reviews. So
Okay,
I have Rangers in
Rangers in
6. Look
6.
at the live graphic there. Rangers in 6. Give me Florida in 5.
Oh.
Which is still alive at the time of recording. Florida in 5. Boy, Boston thundered them, and then they thundered them right
Yeah,
back.
it's gonna
How
be
about
good, I
that?
think.
Dallas in 7. I'm sticking with them. I picked them to win the cup. Give me the Dallas Stars in 7.
Oh,
And
we're out of
also
control. The graphics are out of control here.
Also that,
I
though,
love
you
them, though.
saw
They
it.
look great.
I'm sorry, Oilers fans. Give me the Canucks. I'm riding Artur Sheilov. She loves you. She loves
She
you.
loves you.
Yeah. The newest Beatle. How about that?
So Vancouver,
Canucks.
Dallas, Florida Rangers. Okay,
How
interesting.
about that? Mr.
Okay.
Clark.
Yeah, well, a little different. I think you're going to see a couple of changes from yours. Let's not worry about the first round nonsense. 1, 2, 3, 4. I was 4 for 4. But let's go. We have Boston and Florida, and because they beat the Leafs, the team who beats the Leafs always wins the next round. So I'm picking Boston, and I think it's going to be 6 games. So there we go.
Okay.
Boston and 6. We'll see what happens there. The Rangers, they're up 2-0, and I picked the Rangers before that, and I see the Rangers winning that.
We should preface this, Clark.
Yeah.
We made these picks before the round started.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
The Rangers, I can't remember how many I said, Adam. Can you reveal it? Did I say 6 games?
6 games.
Rangers in 6. And you know what? I think it would be quite awesome to see a Boston Rangers conference final. 2
Gary would
original
love it.
6 teams. Get Phil Esposito out there dropping the puck for both teams. Okay, in the West.
Brad Park.
Sorry, Adam, but I see it like the like Ryan sees it, and I see Dallas winning, and I think I said 7 games, in 7, and the Oilers, there should be no reason they lose, except if maybe they blow a 4-1 lead. Boy, what team did that once before? 4-1 lead. I see the Oilers winning in. Oh, I guess it's not going to be 4.
Well,
let's
too
change it
bad.
to 5.
I
can still get the team right. Thanks, Adam. There we go.
You changed that, producer.
That was right on the
sneaky devil.
spot. That was amazing. So there we go. So my difference ones are Boston and the Oilers. The Oilers should win.
They should win, but something magical's
guy.
happening in Vancouver right now.
Yes. Yeah.
Something magical's happening
quickly,
out there with my buddy Rob Krellin's Canucks.
We never really
your
said
Canucks.
Do you think the Leafs will hire a coach right away? And do you think it'll be, and real quick here, we don't have a lot of time. Will it be Berube?
I think it will be Berube, but it'll be announced after the draft.
Okay. After the draft, I think they'll have a guy in place by the draft. And I think they're going to wait until the playoffs are over and see what happens elsewhere in the league. Rod the Bod being one of them. If Brindamore becomes available,
what an embarrassing situation.
100%
anyway.
100%.
And
the Leafs will throw all the money at him. You know that
their owner, if he lets Rod the Bod walk, will be a future couch potato on this show, ladies and gentlemen. But he's not this week because this week.
And I'm also hoping John Cooper gets fired because there's another guy I would take over anyone else. Not sure if that's going to happen.
I don't know.
We'll see.
Really quickly here, our friends at Conway Furniture, Highway 86 East End of Listowel. Look, you go in there, you want to join the couch potato movement, get a brand new love seat, a couch, lots of things in there for your home. It's not just all about the furniture. It's about a lot of different things.
That's right.
Kitchen sets, tables, everything. And you know what? I already said it, but our friend Phil Main can tell us, where's Conway Furniture, producer Adam?
Conway Furniture, Highway 86, just east of Listowel.
That's right. That's where it is. And when you go in there, everything in there,
and
the price includes HST and delivery.
And you're going to probably see Ryan Drury there quite a bit now because from what I read, there's going to be a fry bus in their parking lot. A fry truck, chip truck. That's what I hear. So check your local listings for that.
I'm ready to burn a hole through this ridge wallet, ladies and gentlemen.
And then you can sit on the couch and be a potato after you eat your fries. It ties in perfectly. Potatoes, fries.
I swear to God, they did that on purpose. That's what our friends at Conway Furniture do. Their attention to detail is second to none, and they'll take care of you.
They say, these guys have been doing a couch potato for so long. Let's get some potatoes out in the parking lot.
100%. Can't wait to see you down there. I just came to me. 60 cent list.
I'm proud of myself. Can you tell?
It's something. Clarkey, what do you got?
Let's go.
I'm ready for this show.
Let's go. It's a little longer this week, I think. So let's get ready, Adam. Here we go. My couch potato is, you know what? I really did like this guy, and I'm sad to see him go. Sheldon Keefe, and he had this message after he was let go by the Leafs.
Time has come to say goodbye. Writing down a note and sending it out didn't seem like enough, and I do plan on taking a little break from media, so here I am. I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to coach the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's a dream come true for a boy from Brampton. I want to thank Kyle Dubas, Lou Lamoriello, Brad Treliving, Brandon Pridham, Brendan Shanahan, Larry Tannenbaum, and the MLSE board for giving me this opportunity to work with the Marlies and Leafs. I didn't get it done in the playoffs. I didn't help push our team over the line and deliver. I accept responsibility for that. No excuses. That's the job. I didn't get it done. It's the reality of the business, and I accept it. To the players, I appreciate all your efforts. Your talents and your work ethic made me look good on a lot of nights. Anyone who suited up for blue and white, I appreciate you. To the support staff of the Maple Leafs, you're tremendous people and you're elite at what you do. Players and support staff will drive the team to success. I believe it will win. Leafs Nation, you deserve your Stanley Cup. Your passion at home and on the road is unmatched. It's an incredible honor to coach the Maple Leafs, to try to deliver for you. To the media, I had to deal with you every single day, sometimes twice a day, 3 times a day. I appreciate your process. I respected the fact that you're honest and fair and had a job to do. I hope you appreciated the fact that I helped you do it. I don't know what comes next, but I know I'll be ready for it. In the meantime, I'll enjoy giving my family the time that they deserve. Love you all and be well.
Wow.
I get sad when I saw that. I was sad. I really was.
Me too. And again, because the guy got kicked, down the curb because
if he had guys who could freaking play, he wouldn't be in that position. I do not blame the coach, but I do say they need a new voice. So unfortunately, he had to take the fall.
Yeah, he bears responsibility, but at least he had the fortitude to come out and say it.
Yeah, I say the balls.
And none of the players did that. None of them.
None. No, zero.
I
Mr.
really,
Fancy Pants can get out of here.
I like Sheldon. He seems like a good guy. My respect for him went through the roof with what he said in that message. It really did. Yeah. He's going to land on his feet.
There you go. My couch potato.
He's going to land on his feet.
Sheldon Keefe, good luck to you, buddy. Good luck.
Good luck to Sheldon. My couch potato is a guy, and I referenced the stat earlier, the 3rd highest save percentage in the last decade in a series that went at least 6 games. Producer Adam rolls some of these highlights, and I know I said earlier, it's not an excuse that you got goalied. Well, listen, Jeremy Swayman out goalied the heck out of whoever was at the other end for Toronto, especially when it was that Ilya Samsonov guy. This guy was tremendous. He went in there and absolutely stood on his head at times, particularly in games 5, 6, and 7, when the Leafs played their best games of the series, still came up short. And a big reason why is because of Swayman. He was absolutely spectacular. He is my Conway Furniture Couch Potato. And there's the pat.
No, I don't want to see
They deserve
that.
it. They deserve it. They deserve to do the hug. There it is. Thanks, producer Adam. There you go. Lots of great highlights of Jeremy Swayman.
And the Leafs were a goal, a shot away from beating them. They should have won that last game 1-0. They should have been able to lock it down.
Series
if they had a and that last game 1-0. They got the goal. They had the lead, and then a bad one goes in.
Yeah, the Muffin Man came back. You're right down Drury Lane.
I agree.
And the Muffin Man.
I agree.
Up.
Dark guy.
I'm sorry.
It's the truth. Yeah,
Look,
he played great during the game.
I want to say.
I admit it.
I want to say this. Yeah, but that's what it is. It's the goals that he does let in are absolutely
backbreaking. It's the same thing. I'm telling you right now, it's the same thing.
People think I hate the guy.
Same thing.
People think I hate the guy. I am a lover scorned.
You're just shooting
I
straight.
said 6 years ago.
I know. I don't want to hear it again.
Best prospect outside the NHL. I said it.
Let's move on. Let's say goodbye. We got to go. Adam's thinking, man, I got a lot to edit.
Listen, ladies and gentlemen, you can watch this show Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9 with our friends on Whiteman TV. That's channel 6 for Whiteman subscribers, by the way. We debut on our YouTube channel Friday nights at 9. You can find clips of the show on our social media pages at Instigating Pod. You can find the podcast version on all your favorite podcast apps. Thanks again to our friend Albert Vartanian, co-host of Homestand Leafs. You can find that podcast on all your favorite apps. And our buddy Todd Crocker, the voice of the Marlies, for joining us here. And Clarkey, thank you for putting up with another eulogy of your beloved Maple Leafs.
No problem. I'm used to it now. It's fine. It's fine.
I'm sorry.
But we also need to thank every week our producer, Adam.
Producer Adam, dude, it goes without saying, but in particular,
this show wouldn't be the same without Adam.
Hello.
No question about it.
It was.
It was right on top of things tonight. It was an awesome show. Thanks, Adam.
Producer Adam knows what
Good luck to your Avs.
Good luck to your Avs, guys. Just gonna say, good luck. I don't want them to win because I think Dallas is really good, but if they go all the way, we'll be right there celebrating this series, for producer Adam.
Whoever wins that series has a strong.
Is going to the
chance
final. I agree. I agree. Unless it's the Vancouver Canucks.
No.
Rob Krellin, come on, your Canucks out there. Let's go. All right, everybody. We'll see you next week here on Instigating.